A psychology professor of mine once pointed out that women are far more likely to use poison as a means of killing than more directly violent means, whilst men will use the more direct physical means. This is surely the case with most of the female serial killers we have looked at, and it was the case as well with today's serial killer, Justina Margareta Gottfried, more commonly referred to as Gesche Gottfried. Like many female serial killers, it took a long time for Gesche to be caught at her acts, and so she was active for some 14 years, nearly 15, taking 15 victims with arsenic poison in the German cities of Bremen and Hanover. She was the last person publicly executed in Bremen. She was born poor and had a twin, a brother, Johann Tim Gottfried Jr. Her mother was a seamstress and her father a tailor. Her parents were not overly affectionate with her, preferring their son instead. In fact, her father encouraged her to marry and leave the home at the earliest age possible. And so at age 21, she married Johann Mittenberg, a saddler from Bremen. Together, the pair would have 3 children, but according to some sources, they had 5. Things were fairly normal for marriages in early 1800s Germany, but hubby Johann would come into some money when his own father passed. Like too many who are flush with cash, he drank it and gambled it away. Sometime in 1813, he admitted to Gesche that all the money had been wasted away and the family was destitute. It was after that he experienced a period of stomach aches and pains, and then he died. In May 1815, Gesche's own mother would pass in much the same way, stomach pains and then gone. Gesche then saw her own 2 daughters, Johanna and Adelheid, die again in much the same way. Was it the cholera that was epidemic in Germany around that time that was taking so many of her relatives to their graves? Or something more? Hello, of course it was something more. Though we have great sympathy for those taken in the epidemic, this channel isn't about public health crises. It's about crime. And on Saturdays, it's about serial killers. Of course it was poison. Specifically, it was that all too familiar killer, arsenic. Mouths of butter, to be precise, a spreadable fat that's laced with arsenic that was commonly used to kill mice. Obviously, Gesche had other uses for the mixture. That doesn't mean the epidemic was irrelevant, though. Gesche had a habit of helping during the epidemic, and so to many became known as the Angel of Bremen. Some angel. Her father would die shortly after the daughters in 1815, then went her twin brother. In 1817, her second husband, Michael Christoph Gottfried, would die, and there may have been a 6-year hiatus then. She became engaged to Paul Thomas Zimmermann, who was killed in June 1823, sparking another spree that took her friends Anna Lucia Meerholz and Johann Moses in 1825. Suffering financially, she sold her house in 1826. The buyers asked her to stay on as a housekeeper. That might have been insulting to Gesche. The buyers were Johann and Wilhelmina Rumpf. Wilhelmina would not last long as mistress of the house. Another maid would leave employment there, claiming that illness and death followed wherever Gesche was. Johann became ill next, but he also became suspicious. After all, the cholera epidemic had already been more than a decade earlier. Johann suspected his food was being poisoned and found a white powder in it, which he took to a chemist. The chemist, Dr. Lucha, would determine the powder was arsenic and notified authorities. He himself was suspicious, as he had treated several of Gesche's previous victims. When Gesche discovered that she was under suspicion, she fled Bremen to Hanover. In those days, it was just so easy for people to flee to a nearby town and remain undiscovered and undisturbed. Gesche did not learn much, though, from her near discovery and arrest. While in Hanover, she continued to kill. First, there was Mrs. Bethe Schmidt and her daughter Alice in May 1827. 2 months following that, there was a Friedrich Klein killed. She was only captured in March 1828, at which point she confessed to 15 murders and many, many more attempted murders. She was sentenced to execution by beheading. They made a death mask of her features. At the time, it was believed that studying these masks might help to identify criminal women. It was part of a larger, now debunked area of study called phrenology, the same so-called science that claimed it could read meaning into the bumps on a person's head. The stone, referred to as the spitting stone or Spuckstein, lies in the middle of the Domshof, commemorating the execution. Some say that this was the very spot Gesche's head landed before a crowd of 35,000 people. It is said that the spitting stone got its name from citizens of Bremen who used to spit on the spot in disgust for Gesche's crimes. We have no idea why she did any of it. Perhaps killing the irresponsible husband is understandable. Not excusable, but understandable. But all the others, including her own children, we just don't know. There have been a lot of guesses by a lot of different people with experience in different fields, including a guess that she suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy. However, many of the deaths simply don't fit that diagnosis. Though she confessed, the few statements she made were confusing and of no assistance in providing a motive. Despite her crimes, or because of the notoriety of them, a street in Bremen is now named Gesche Gottfried Way. So that's it, and until next Saturday, have a great week. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.